Hey guys, it's Maria again. I'm here with Bob Francis, the Director of the Department of Inspections, Licenses, and Permits, otherwise known as DILP. Today he's going to be our next speaker on our installment of With a Little Help from Our Friends. Ready Yeti's going to be our interviewer. And Bob's going to talk to Ready Yeti today a little bit of how DILP assists in all phases of emergency preparedness.
Any emergency preparedness starts with a good plan. And for the Inspections, Licenses, and Permits Department, or the Building Department, planning means the adoption of modern building codes which allow for the construction of buildings that are built to withstand the rigors of natural and man-made disasters like fires, floods, high winds, snowstorms. For us, planning also includes the next step, which is mitigation, which is doing things that will lessen the impact of a disaster. And mitigation for our department, of course, means the review and approval of plans so that we can make sure that the buildings that are going to be built are going to meet the code requirements. The next step in the planning process would be a response to a natural disaster. The Department of Inspections, Licenses, and Permits role in disaster response is damage assessment. After fire and police respond to an emergency and the emergent needs are met, the first step in dealing with a disaster is finding out what is the extent of it, how much damage has occurred, how many buildings have been affected, how many people can stay in their buildings or have to be relocated. So damage assessment is the next step in our process. For inspections, licenses, and permits, the last step in an emergency preparedness plan is back to where we began. Once people start the rebuilding process, we're literally back to where we were before as far as what do we need to do to build buildings that are more resilient. So when folks come back in to rebuild, we're going back to the codes that we've adopted. It's a lot like planners talk about the planning P, where you have an emergency response. There's a plan is formulated, and then the plan is carried out. How is it working? Feedback, adjustment, and then ongoing. From our standpoint, the planning P includes the adoption of codes, but then mitigation is the enforcement of those codes and the inspection and building process. And then when it comes back after a disaster, we're talking in the rebuilding process. So we're going right through that same sort of planning P process. And mitigation is a never-ending process. It's a lot like fire prevention. Any fireman will tell you that the easiest fire to fight is the one that doesn't start. What we do in the building department is not just fire prevention, but fire prevention, snow load prevention, wind prevention, flood, tornado prevention. So it's an important function. And emergency preparedness isn't just something that we help other folks with. Emergency preparedness is something that our department and every department in county government deals with on a regular basis. There are two things called continuity of government and continuity of operations, COG and COOP. So if a disaster hits our building, for example, we have plans in place so that we can continue to provide the government services that people need to function. We have our own COOP plan. So that if this building, for example, were flooded or were struck by a fire, we have plans in place so that we'll know who's in charge, where we're going to go, and what's going to happen. You can develop your own plan by going to readyhoco.com because you never know when a disaster is going to strike, and you need to be prepared.